President Trump just passed 1 year in office, so I think it's time we give him a report card. One thing that drives me crazy is how bad the news coverage is on Trump. If you watch MSNBC, everything he does is horrible. If you watch Fox News, everything he does is brilliant. Here's where I'm coming from. If you watch my channel, you already know that I publicly endorsed Trump during the last election. Since he's been elected, there have been several things I've been unhappy about, and I've called him out about them. So I want to take a more measured approach. I'm going to give you 5 things I think are problematic and 5 things that I like that Trump is doing. And then we're going to give Donald Trump a grade. And I want to do this together. Watch this video all the way through and then comment down below your grade for Donald Trump. Number 1, lowest congressional record in modern history. I want to start with Congress because this directly reflects on Trump. We have seen that Trump is not good at working with Congress to get bills passed.
And this year, Congress sent over only 38 bills to President Trump to sign into law, the lowest for a first year of a presidential term in modern history.
It turns out that Trump is no different than any other president. We typically see that a president will get one major piece of legislation passed in the first 100 days of his term, and then basically do nothing for the rest of the term because they've used up all their political capital. Trump pushed through the big, beautiful bill, and then any momentum in Congress has been very limited. This is a big problem, because much of what Trump has done has been with executive orders, which means when a Democrat takes office, they can just reverse everything because nothing has been put into law. So the only major thing Trump has accomplished is the big, beautiful bill, which did implement some pretty incredible things. It gave everyone a massive tax cut and funded the border wall. The biggest problem with the bill was it did not include DOGE cuts. In my opinion, DOGE was a massive failure, and I put most of the blame on that on Elon Musk because he left. He was the only person who really cared about cutting the government budget. In government, you really need someone in the room the entire time pushing to cut the budget, or it's never going to happen. Elon left, so it's no surprise that the budget cuts never materialized. What we have seen is that in the day-to-day efforts of governing and passing bills, Donald Trump has not been very successful. Number 2, ICE raids. There has been growing concern over the extreme actions we have seen in the ICE raids and the effort to deport illegal immigrants from the country. I think it is important to note that even with the controversies around the ICE raids, strong border policy is still extremely popular among Americans. In a Reuters poll this week, they found that 39% of Americans approved of Trump's handling of immigration. That is the lowest this issue has ever polled. But you have to keep this in context. For a political issue, this is still relatively strong polling. In a year, it has only dropped 7 percentage points. This remains one of Trump's biggest areas of support. People want a strong border. Most of the discussion has been centered around the violent riots in Minneapolis. I think what is happening in Minneapolis should be blamed on Governor Tim Walz. I believe he's trying to create as much chaos as possible to take attention away from all the money he has been allegedly stealing from fake Somali daycare centers. I want to highlight another aspect of immigration that I find problematic: the treatment of asylum cases. It has always been the policy of the United States that we will not deport someone if it means that being sent home would be a death sentence. I've been monitoring some of these court cases, and it seems like this policy under Trump has been thrown out the window. Judges are ignoring asylum requests, and it's pretty disturbing. I realize that asylum requests were abused under Joe Biden. Everyone wanted asylum. That is obviously ridiculous, but we should not throw the whole system out. Let me give you an example. Last week, a young Iranian woman who was an anti-hijab activist was deported back to Iran. This is someone who was fighting for women's rights not to have to wear a headscarf. We sent her to Iran. She is being sent to her death. This happened last week. I understand that having a strong border is important, but we should not be sending people to their deaths. Another example is Russia. A lot of these people are immigrants who fled to the US because they protested against Putin and the war in Ukraine. When we send them in a plane back to Russia, they are met at the airport and they're either sent to the front lines of the war to die or they're sent to prison. Putin wants his hands on these people, and we are doing Putin's dirty work. I realize that we cannot give asylum to everyone, but Russia and Iran are two examples that are so blatantly obvious that we should be recognizing these cases as legitimate asylum cases. These are vulnerable populations, and Donald Trump should be making sure that we are not sending people to their death. Even if we did continue to deport these people, why not allow them to go to another country that is willing to accept them? For example, we could be sending people to Kazakhstan instead of back to Russia to die. To put this in context, I'm only talking about roughly 1,000 people who are currently being held in detention centers awaiting deportation. In the general scheme of things, this is a drop in the bucket. We should let these people out of prison, give them temporary asylum, and deal with the other immigration cases first. The Russians and the Iranians are not the people causing the immigration problems. They're not bringing in the drugs. They do not have criminal records. They're not gang members from Central America. They are not creating fake daycare centers with Tim Waltz. These are hardworking, educated people who love America and are here because they were protesting against oppressive regimes. I would think these are the people we would want in America. We are talking about 1,000 exceptional people, and we could save their lives. Number 3, strawberry shortage. On a less serious note, the U.S. has been experiencing a strawberry shortage. I don't know about you, but I like strawberries. And it's not like I eat them every day, but I would like to be able to find them in the grocery store. Where I live, there has been no strawberries in the grocery stores starting around Thanksgiving. It has been 2 months with no strawberries. Now, I realize that it is the middle of winter, and this is not exactly harvesting season for strawberries. But with modern supply chains, there's usually some place somewhere growing strawberries. This just raises questions whether this is a sign of problems with the U.S. economy if we cannot buy strawberries. Trump just did a big deal with Argentina. We bailed them out with a $20 billion credit line. Well, if we're giving them all this money, why doesn't Trump tell them to send us all their strawberries? That seems like a no-brainer to me. Can you put in the comments, do you have strawberries in your grocery store? Actually, this week, I did find one store that was selling strawberries. This was the first time in 2 months. If these shortages continue, and I find out that they're still serving strawberries at Mar-a-Lago, I'm going to lose my mind. Number 4, Venezuela invasion. This month, the United States invaded Venezuela and captured their leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife. This has raised a lot of criticism on whether the U.S. should be invading other countries, and I think that people have a valid point. However, what really bothers me about this story is the news coverage is so bad. No one is telling you what is really going on. For months, Venezuela has been launching attack boats towards the United States. Trump has been destroying these boats. I have lost track of how many boats have been destroyed, but it is well over 20 attacks. Here's a map with some of the locations. You can see the boats were heading from Venezuela towards the United States. In my opinion, the U.S. is justified in defending our mainland from these attacks. Trump got tired of the attacks and took out their leader. This is where the news media is so unethical. They were covering these boat attacks nonstop, talking about how mean Trump was. Then after Trump responded against Venezuela, suddenly the news completely stops mentioning the boat attacks and tries to tell the story that innocent Venezuela was doing nothing wrong. Venezuela was just minding their own business, and evil Trump invaded them. That is not at all what happened. I don't care what country you are. If you are going to send armed boat attacks towards the US mainland for months, we're going to take out your leader. End of story. Number 5, FBI failures. Probably the thing that people are the most upset about is the FBI's inability to do anything. Under Joe Biden, there was a huge long list of political persecutions, including President Trump himself. We are 1 year into Trump's FBI, and they have not made any major arrests. They've indicted James Comey for lying to Congress, and that is pretty much it. What about prosecutions for COVID? What about election fraud? What about conspiracy over January 6 prosecutions? What about Hillary Clinton's emails? Instead of prosecuting these people, we have had very bizarre FBI investigations, like, allegedly, arresting the wrong person as a January 6 pipe bomber, or refusing to release the documents on the murder of Seth Rich, or refusing to release the Epstein files. Congress even passed a law mandating that they release the Epstein files, and they still have not released them.
The Trump administration and the Department of Justice has slow-rolled this release at every turn. Today, they released 3 million of the 6 million documents we know they have. We know they have 6 million because they said it. They released 50% of the documents, and the 50% we have today are heavily redacted. So they continue to cover up the full truth that's in the files.
The worst offense is the poor investigation into Charlie Kirk's murder. I think more than any other issue, this will determine whether the Republicans win in the midterm elections. If Trump's FBI is still trying to convince us that Charlie Kirk was shot with a .30-06, the Republicans are going to lose the midterms. I don't know what stupid person came up with that story, but when so many of your voters are gun owners, no one's going to vote for you when you're pushing such an obvious lie. Let's switch into 5 positive things that Trump is doing. Number 6, January 6 prisoners. My number 1 biggest accomplishment of Donald Trump was when he released the January 6 prisoners on day 1. I have followed their cases closely, and hundreds of innocent people were caught up in January 6. These were people who were waved in by police and simply walked through the Capitol building. These innocent people spent 3 to 4 years in prison. Think about that. Their lives were destroyed. Their families were destroyed. Several of them committed suicide. It was such a horrible injustice. Donald Trump on day 1 let these people go home. This is the reason why I give Trump leeway on so many of these other issues. Because I think this one decision showed real character. He was under a lot of pressure not to release the prisoners, and he did it anyway. And these were not rich or powerful people. These weren't his friends. Trump was getting nothing out of this. He did it because it was the right thing to do. Because of this one decision, I give Trump the benefit of the doubt on everything else. Number 7, comparison analysis. Something you do a lot in business is comparison analysis. You compare your business against others to see if you're doing a good job. Well, we can also do this with presidents. Do you remember what it was like under Joe Biden? Here he is stroking the arm of one of his supporters. Okay, this is just creepy. Who shakes someone's hand like this? I don't understand what is going on here. You may not like everything about Donald Trump, but he seems to me to be a massive improvement to Joe Biden. When you compare Donald Trump to other past presidents, he still comes out on top. We don't have the sex scandals we had with Bill Clinton, we don't have the Iraq War we had with George Bush, and we don't have the secret communist takeover we had under Obama. In a comparison analysis, Donald Trump looks pretty good. Number 8, time. People need to allow time for Donald Trump's actions to kick in. Many of the things in the big beautiful bill do not kick in until 2026. People are doing their taxes right now. and they're going to start to see benefits. For example, no tax on tips is a policy that is affecting people's taxes. That is extra money in people's pockets that they're going to start spending from their 2025 tax returns. A lot of the decisions that Trump made in 2025, we're going to start feeling in 2026, and I think it's going to be very beneficial. Number 9, central bank digital currency, or CBDC. Central bank digital currency is one of the most important issues. This is one of those topics that really only finance nerds care about, but it is something that will affect everyone's life in a massive way. The government was racing towards implementing CBDC under Joe Biden. This is a government-controlled form of cryptocurrency that would replace the US dollar. Thank goodness Trump has put a stop to this. He signed an executive order his first month as president. This is another example that did not benefit him that much politically, but he did it because he understood how important it was. The big problem is that the ban on CBDC is only in the executive order. Trump needs to codify it in legislation. Otherwise, if the Democrats take over, they're once again going to try to take control of your money. If you refuse to take the vaccine, they can just turn off your money. If they don't like your speech, they can turn off your money. Trump needs to take further action on banning CBDC. Number 10, AI investment. AI is currently the fastest growing new business sector. We always want the US to be on the forefront of developing any new technology. Now, I know that a lot of people are scared of AI. We've all seen the Terminator movies. But I do not believe it is in our best interest to ignore the problem. We should remain involved so that we can implement AI responsibly. People really underestimate what Trump has done in terms of AI. Let me play you a clip of what Kamala Harris was doing with AI under the Biden administration.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process.
The Democrats' focus was on making sure that AI was woke. That is what they cared about. They wanted to teach AI to lie so that it did not hurt anyone's feelings. That would have been a huge disaster. I've been very happy with Donald Trump's embrace of the AI industry and making sure that American companies have the ability to remain on the cutting edge. So those are the 10 main issues during Trump's first year as president. Now it is time to give him a grade. Let's see how other people are grading Donald Trump. This is what Candace Owens had to say.
If you had to grade his presidency so far within, we're 11 months in roughly, what would you say?
So I would say I'm biased. So if you're asking me to grade, you know how you would have those teachers where if you would take a test and they would automatically flunk you if you didn't put your name on the paper?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The Epstein thing for me is like automatic flunk if you don't put your name on the paper, right?
Gotcha.
So if I'm a mom now, so this was the most important thing to me was figuring out where the pedophiles are in our society.
An F? Really? That seems a little extreme. Let us see how Donald Trump would grade himself.
But I do want to talk about the economy, sir, here at home, and I wonder what grade you would give your
A+.
economy. A+.
Yeah, A++++++.
Well, it's
Trump gives himself an A++++++. I didn't even know that was possible. So Candace Owens gives him an F. Donald Trump gives himself an insane grade I've never heard of before. Here is my grade. I give Donald Trump a B. I think there are some issues, but I'm willing to give him more time to address some of these concerns. My grade might not still be that high by the time midterms come around, but for right now, I'm still supportive of his administration. Now I want to hear from you. I want to know what grade you would give Donald Trump. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. If you want to support independent journalism like this channel, consider signing up for a membership on my website, wolvesandfinance.com. For $6 a month, your support helps me to keep making these videos. Thank you to everyone who has signed up. I'm Zach from Wolves in Finance. Thank you for watching.